Well, Johnny, I am sure that yesterday it was rather, how should I put this? Strange day, maybe. Of McDermott, but then Bean, and again, we're going to get into all that right now. So the Bills fired Sean McDermott, and I really wanted to get your take as the big Bills fan in my life. Johnny, what was your take seeing this and your honest thoughts about Sean McDermott getting fired?
Yeah, I said it on the show yesterday that it was something that probably had to happen. I mean, that's what happens when you go almost a decade not winning a Super Bowl and you have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. It's just a reality thing. The NFL is a results-based league. I've said this pretty much all day yesterday and all day today now. If you don't produce the results that the fan base and the franchise is looking for, you're going to get fired. And Josh Allen has the ultimate job security. Pardon me. So obviously McDermott is the guy that you're looking at. And it's like, I thought maybe Brandon Bean would be going with him. So maybe that's shocking, but I wasn't necessarily shocked that McDermott had to go. Maybe you don't agree with it. Maybe after this playoff loss, it wasn't all on McDermott. But when you look at the whole picture, the last decade without a Super Bowl appearance, that's why he got fired. And that's the way I justify it, at least.
Let me read off some stats here, because I feel like I'm teetering on the edge of the other side from where you're at with Sean McDermott. This really did surprise me that they got rid of Sean McDermott. 98-50 regular season, his tenure with the Bills. He's 98-50, an 8-8 record in the playoffs, 5 AFC East titles. He had 8 playoff appearances in 9 seasons, and yes, he never made it to a Super Bowl, never won a Super Bowl. But in my opinion, I think, it seems as if, anyway, from a public perspective, it does seem like yesterday was a scapegoaty type of move with getting rid of him, at least from somebody who's not a Bills fan. But also, to me, it just seems like he's not the one getting the players. He's the one, if you will, that is basically working with what he's got and relying on Josh Allen to be Superman when you're playing with, yes, he's got James Cook, but you're playing with Khalil Shakir out there, Keon Coleman, and a lot of these guys. And that's not any disrespect to Khalil Shakir, but at least in my opinion, Sean McDermott was the guy that I believed could get a team like this, who a lot of people on the outside looking in didn't really even believe that they would be able to go all the way. This team, anyway, like how it was set up this year, who a lot believed was worse than last season. Yet he got to where he was. We'll talk about the call here in a second. Terrible, terrible ending to that game. But, with all those stats in front of you, Johnny, do you still believe that this was the right move? Or do you think it would have been better to replace Bean first, see what McDermott could do with somebody else in, or just clean house in general is still what you would have felt?
So I can see how, from like an outside perspective, you look at the situation, and after that playoff loss, you're like, well, McDermott's defense actually played pretty well, to be honest with you, throughout the playoffs, despite what the numbers and points against might say. Considering that the injuries that they did have, I thought his defense has performed up to standard. Now, I do agree that it was time to make a decision. Now, whether or not that was for McDermott or Brandon Bean, I was a little bit shocked that they promoted Brandon Bean, like I said.
Yeah.
But with
Yeah.
McDermott, yes, the winning record is there. Yes, we've had number 1 points, number 1 record, yada, yada, yada. That's great. I think from Buffalo's perspective, it's like, okay, we saw Harbaugh get fired. Tomlin left under his own power, although he was probably on his way out anyways. Bill Belichick got fired a few years ago. Pardon me. And then it's like, well, McDermott is at the bottom of the barrel compared to those guys. Those guys are Super Bowl winning head coaches. Now, that's not to say McDermott is still a great head coach and he's going to find success elsewhere, but I don't think the organization was willing to sacrifice another year or two with McDermott there and that what if. Like, sure, it's fine if Josh Allen loses us the playoff game. Cool. We'll live with that. But what if, again, it's on McDermott? Then, again, it's in the back of your head. Hey, what if we pivoted to this head coach? What if we moved on to an offensive-minded head coach like Dable? I don't necessarily love the head coaching market right now. There's a ton of openings, and yes, we are an ideal landing spot because we have Josh Allen. But last year was the year when you had your Ben Johnsons, your Liam Cohens, your Vrabels in the mix. I don't necessarily know who we go at now. I know Dable's the front runner. I've heard Kubiak's name thrown around. A lot of people want an offensive-minded head coach, and I don't mind that at all to help tame down Josh Allen just a little bit with the decision-making. But at the end of the day, if you go a decade in the NFL, I mean, how many coaches spend a decade in one place? Very few. And usually it's when they win. And yeah, we had a lot of success. But again, success is measured differently for different teams. For Carolina,
This is
it was
true.
huge to
Yeah.
make the playoffs this year. Right now, it's literally Super Bowl or bust. Anything besides that, it's just run of the mill, same old, same old.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you said there. That last point to me is probably the biggest one I've heard. I haven't heard anybody say that. That success is measured differently for each team and where they're at right now. And I think that that's so true because, like you said about the Panthers, what an incredible season, all things considered. They get to the playoffs on an 8-night record. Of course, that's just the NFC South. I mean, congratulations for playing in the NFC South. But when it comes to the Bills, I think that I'm right there with you. It's shocking, to say the least, that Brandon Beane gets promoted while McDermott gets fired. And yes, I could see that. For me, if as an Eagles fan, if right now with everything that we have, I'm in agreement, not on Nick Sirianni, but because of how terrible the offense was, it's like, hey, get rid of Kevin Patullo. Like, we got to fire, and thankfully we do. Now, that's just a 1-year situation there. It's so bad. But if Philly goes the next 5 years, never making it to a Super Bowl with a team like this, I think I might be in the same boat as a fan of them as you are right now with Buffalo, where it's like, hey, something's got to change while we've got a guy like Josh Allen in. And from that perspective, I definitely can understand. So with the coaches that are available, and this is kind of going to bleed into the future of Buffalo, with the coaches that are available right now, who would you say are maybe 2 or 3 that you really would like them to get, again, of this maybe poorer class? And maybe who's 1 or 2 that you're like, please, please do not get this guy. I really wouldn't like to have this guy.
So as far as guys that at least I think would be suited for the Bills, I think Dable is the obvious choice.
Mm.
Already working with Josh, and I think that's more so where we're trending. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the market. I don't think there's an experienced head coach out there that I'm a huge fan of right now. But what I definitely don't want, Spencer, is to promote internally. That
Okay.
rarely works. That has rarely worked for teams in the NFL. And when you do that, you're really not, in my opinion, changing much unless you have a drastically different approach from your OC or your DC or whoever's promoted. I just don't like that idea of bringing a guy like Joe Brady into the head coaching position. Joe Brady's a fine OC, but I still do think we could do better. And look, like McDermott was a great relationships guy. That's why this stings, right? Because all the players are saying, well, he built a good locker room and it's going to hurt. I've said it again and again. I don't think losing the relationship aspect with McDermott is going to be this huge hit. We have Josh Allen still, so we're going to make the playoffs. But what I don't want to do is promote internally and have the same situation. If we're going to let go of McDermott, it's because we had something different in mind. It's because we wanted to go after an offensive-minded head coach like a Dable who can come in and change the direction of where we're going, change things up. I don't want to let go of McDermott only to turn to the guy he was just working with very closely, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I'm really against. As far as who to bring in, like I said, I think Dable is the front runner right now. Just because McDermott just got fired, the rumors, all that, they haven't really started to kick in. But I do think over the next week, you'll kind of start to hear things. And I don't know. It'll be interesting because McDermott, he did build a pretty solid foundation for us. So now you're looking for somebody who still has that relationship aspect, but can bring in, a little bit more pizzazz, I'll say, like offensively.
Mm. Yeah. And, a lot of people might forget because, for whatever reason, but Dayball was there in the early years of Josh Allen's career. And so there is a little bit of that familiarity there. Um, and I'm right there with you with what you're dealing with there. This past week, I've been getting over this sickness. But no, I think that with the Bills, my next question is, so what about receivers? This has been one of the biggest issues, at least from my perspective, looking at the Bills in recent memory of you have, you bring in Brandon Cooks, you bring in MVS, you draft Keon Coleman, which at that time, I believe the top 4 names in that draft, really top 5, because Brian Thomas Jr. was kind of not really being respected. But you had Brian Thomas Jr., Roma Dunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Keon Coleman. And out of those guys, the Bills draft Keon Coleman. And here we are 2 years later. He's going to be going into year 3. My personal opinion is kind of still the same as it was when he was coming out of college. Out of all 5 of those guys, he has the worst separation. He wins great in contested catches in college, but that's remains to be seen in the NFL. And it's not like he has this elusive route tree. And so with the Bills, what do you do at wide receiver? I mean, are you looking as a fan? Are you hoping to really hit? Do you think they'll really hit on a guy in the draft? Are you comfortable with the receiving room and you think there's bigger areas to hit as a Bills fan? Is there somebody that you know that's going to be a free agency you want y'all to hit? I mean, when you come to the Bills wide receiver room, what would you do if they said, "Hey, you know what, Johnny? We've heard you, and why don't you come over here and take Bean's place?" What's the first rule that you're doing over there with the wide receivers?
Well, I've complained about the position group for years now since Diggs left. But again, the reality is that in 2 playoff games this year, we averaged, I think, 28.5 points without receivers. So going out and fishing out the star receiver would be great, and it would definitely ease my complaints. But at the same time, I think for years we have had the teams to do it. It's just a lack of finishing the job. Like that's really all it is. Whether it's a defensive collapse or 5 turnovers in a game like we just saw against the Denver Broncos. So sure, I would love to go out and get a receiver. I would love to finally hit on a draft pick that's a receiver, right? Keon Coleman has been a complete bust. Like, let's just call it what it is. He's not been great for us at all. Like, he really hasn't shown me much at all. I don't even think he's a number 2 receiver right now, to be honest with you. And, yeah, it would be great to go out and get a guy like A.J. Brown if he's on the market. But at the same time, it's like, I don't view that as yeah, it's a pressing need. Like, I'm kind of contradicting myself right now, but it's not been the issue that we've lost. Like, you look at our games, and it's like, if we had a star receiver, do we win those games? I don't think we win the game against Denver if we have a star receiver. I don't think it makes a difference. We put up 30 points, and the only reason we lost is because of our self-inflicted wounds. Now, then you can say, well, if Josh had a receiver, he'd feel more confident to throw it up to him. Sure, then we're playing the what-if game. At the end of the day, it's a matter of, for me at least, I want an edge rusher that can make a difference. I think coming off the edge in the NFL is one of the most underrated and crucial pieces to a team. Now, a guy like Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, they sit in the slums in Vegas and Cleveland because an edge rusher isn't everything. But if you can get that on a good team, like a Micah Parsons, we see the game-changing abilities. So for me, that's a lot more important. But with that being said, it would be nice to at least get somebody. I haven't really looked at the free agent market yet, but I do expect Brandon Beane. Now, if they promoted you, that's the organization saying you were drafting within Sean McDermott's scheme. We're letting Sean McDermott go so you can do your thing now. Please draft us somebody or find us at least a starting receiver. Because I like the guys we have. I like Shakir. I like Shavers. But at the end of the day, you also do need a number 1. And number 1s are important. I mean, how many teams right now have we seen succeed without a number 1 receiver? Very few, I would say.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And I think you look at the teams. It's interesting because you look at the teams that are in the playoffs right now, the final 4 that are left, and there's only one team that really doesn't have like that true, I'm talking alpha wide receiver one. And to me, that's like, I think it's the Patriots, because you look at the teams, you got the Seahawks, who's got JSN. That's a true number 1 right there. You've got the Rams, who've got Puka and Devontae Adams. Now, Devontae Adams is on the back half of his career, of course, but you got Puka, true number 1. Then you look at the Broncos. You've got Cortland Sutton, who kind of teeters on being a 1. I mean, he's definitely, if he's a wide receiver 1, he's kind of like on the back end of being a wide receiver 1, but he is a wide receiver 1. And then with the Patriots, you've got Stephon Diggs, but, just where he's at coming off the injury, where he's at in his career, and it's just like some games he really shows up, some games he really doesn't. And I feel like you get that consistency more with like a Cortland Sutton than you would with a Stephon Diggs. And so to that, I definitely agree. I love the point about the edge rusher. I want to get to the game real quick before we move on to the last point I want to make about Buffalo, and then we'll entirely move on from Buffalo. But that game with Denver. Now, I'm going to assume your answer is yes here. But that Brandon Cooks catch, was that a catch by Brandon Cooks, or was that an interception?
It's so vague, man. From a fan's perspective, like from a biased perspective, of course, like you want to call that a catch. But again, like the rules are too vague. When you look at it, it's like, well, when you freeze it still, it looks like a catch when you take a photo of it. But in the process of completing the catch to the ground, it's like, well, it's hard to determine whether he had possession or not. I would like to say he did, but again, it's way too close of a call for people to say with concrete evidence, like, this was a catch, this was not a catch. I think he could go either way, but the reason it was called that is as he was going to the ground, like maybe the still shot, it's like for a split second he was on the ground, but it's like maybe he didn't have possession going to the ground. I think it was too vague to say, yes, it was a catch. Buffalo got screwed by the refs. At the end of the day, we turned the ball over 5 times. And sure, it's like, hey, we still carved our way back, could have won the game off that catch. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I didn't necessarily agree with the whole fan base jumping down the ref's throat here. It's like, that's a tough call. It's not like, I thought the one in the Rams game with Devontae Adams, I don't know if you saw that. I thought that
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
lot clearer where he took like 2 steps, football move, went down on a knee, then he was stripped. Like that's way different. People were complaining about that, comparing it. They're different things. Now, you can argue, sure, it was a catch. I wouldn't mind that at all. I would love for that to be a catch and for us to win the game.
Yeah.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like it wasn't as clear as our fan base is making it out to be. That's just what it is, to be honest with you.
Wow. I got to give it to you, Johnny. You're the first one I've seen kind of really say that it could have went either way. I feel like I was more, hell bent on the fact that it was a catch, but also too, I wanted the Bills to win that game. I didn't care who won the
Me
to
too.
be honest. Well, yeah, I didn't care who won the game. Like I was like, oh, okay, Bo Nix have his moment. Well, and then 5 minutes after the game, I was even more mad that the Bills lose. But I had my 51-49 going to the Bills, and for that to happen, and then those 2 PI calls. And I even said on yesterday's show, like that second one, definitely pass interference. I don't even know why White is like getting upset. Brother, you're all over his back before he catches the ball. Definitely PI. The
Yeah.
first one before that, I thought that was a stretch. Even the broadcaster's like, ooh, like, I don't know. So it's like over 50 yards of 2 PI calls after that Brandon Cook situation that gets Denver in position. But it's also true that you guys had 5 turnovers. So I mean, both are true at the same time. And I think what hurts too, and maybe you agree. I think what hurts as well is like fans just don't want to see, and when you've basically held on to the whistle for 3 or 4 quarters, fans don't want to see it come down to the refs making these really harsh decisions at the end of a game, especially in overtime. And I think, I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, that it seems to be because of either Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen the last 5 years that rules get changed in the NFL when it comes to like the playoffs or overtime or something. And I was just sitting there thinking, this could be one of those situations where the overtime rules where a coach doesn't get a challenge, maybe it changes. Because when that Brandon Cooks play happened, McDermott even called a timeout to give them more time. They didn't even review the play. The refs didn't even want to review it. It's like they wanted to just get the Broncos back out there, get back out. Now, again, I'm not saying it's rigged. That's not what I'm saying. All I am saying is that was such a strange situation to then end the game how it did.
Right.
It was heartbreaking. And maybe the overtime rule will change. I mean, it's because of your boy Josh that a lot of this stuff happens anyway. But no. So I think with the future of Buffalo, the last thing I'll ask here before we move on from the Buffalo segment here is, what's your honest thoughts? Like next 2 years, what does this Buffalo team look like maybe from a record perspective? And like, what are the expectations going into the 2026 season? I mean, we're far off, and this one hasn't even ended. But knowing that McDermott's gone and there's going to be big changes, what's the reality of this Buffalo team year 1 and then year 2 with McDermott gone?
I mean, I wouldn't expect much different, to be honest with you. I don't think we're going to deviate too far from our 12, 11 win year, to be honest with you. That should be where we're at for the majority of seasons with Josh Allen, as long as he's healthy.
Okay.
Like I said, what I would like to see is for us to go get an edge rusher. Joey Bosa was great, but again, it's not just a game changer, right? He's not a needle mover. He doesn't really move me very much. So I think that's our future right there. It's lock down an elite edge rusher, somebody you can rely on defense who can take over the game. And as far as our offense goes, like, yeah, we're going to add some pieces. Hopefully, Brandon Bean can put together at least one more Pro Bowler as a draftee. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect much different. This team is always going to be good. It's just a matter of closing out in the playoffs, and I do firmly believe it will eventually happen with Josh. People like to, get in the big debates of like, oh, he's not clutch. There are a lot of quarterbacks who are going to the Hall of Fame who have one Super Bowl to their name, or even
Mm,
no Super Bowls to their name, right? So it's not a huge concern of mine as of right now, although I would like to see it happen. It's pretty devastating to see this year after year. It's got
yeah.
another good like 5 to 6 years to get it done. But I am nervous for sure. Like we're not in the best situation either. So my expectations is to see a very similar team and to get another crack at the playoffs, which is all you can ask for.
Love it. Love it. And I think too, I mean, we'll see Mahomes come back late, so maybe there's still that chance that the Bengals don't have an O-line and their defense still sucks. Mahomes can't come back till late. And that Lamar Jackson may or may not be with the Ravens. That's where I want to get to now. Let's get into some of this NFL news.